Hi, Guido Fox here. Welcome by a new book report. Today I want to discuss with you this book, Karel de Grote, Karel de Grote in German language, or Charles Charles Magne in English. Karel de Grote, I will call him Karel de Grote, was a big leader from the Franken Empire, and the Franken Empire was nearly 750, 800 after Christ. And after this period, he built this empire into a big West European Roman Empire. So a big restoration of the old Roman empire to build it back to the old levels, and his kingdom was named the Carolingische kingdom. So he built the Frankish kingdom into the Carolingish kingdom, and they call that the new West European Roman Empire. I want to talk a little bit about his personality, some things what is interesting in his story as a leader, as a big leader. It's around 200 pages of information, and in the history they called this guy the father of Europe. He was the father of Europe, so he was very important for the start of nation states, of decentralistic government, building roads, trade routes, that kind of things. Christianity as main issue in religion atmospheres. So he was really, really important for how Europe is shaped currently. So that was a little bit a small summary about what I'm going to tell you. First of all, he was a very strong, white built, tall guy. So you see a lot of leaders were quite tall, wide shoulders, and he was 185 centimeters, and that was very, very tall if you look at the people in the middle age period. People were quite small, and he was very, very tall guy, and that brings also a lot of authority with. If you're very tall as a guy, it's favorable because people see an authority walking there on the streets or in the office or whatever. So tall guys, it has a lot of times a favorable position. If you see in leadership, you see also Lincoln or old presidents of the United States are a lot of times tall people. He had a friendly face. So if you want to become a leader, you probably cannot do something about your height, about your tallness, but you can have a friendly face. So you can be a leader and you can have a friendly face. That is a combinable leadership source. Thereby, he was very energetic, Loden. He had a lot of energy and he was busy all the time to set up, of course, his empire. So tall, friendly face, and he was very energetic. Um, he didn't like alcohol. He didn't want to go into lower consciousness stages, so he was not drinking alcohol. And that was also very special in the Middle Age because everyone was drinking beer as hell. In the Middle Ages, they were always drunk, and he was staying out of the alcohol. He was staying high in his consciousness levels, and he also didn't like to have drunk people in his surroundings. So he didn't want to be confronted with drunk people who were so called happy, and always drunk people in groups, then people saying stupid things, and you get a lot of irritations there later on. You have a lot of examples where colleagues are not friendly anymore to each other because they said something when they were drunk on a business party or whatever. There are legio examples of distorted employee relationships, um, whereby drunk events was the cause of this bad working togetherness later on. So that's what you can learn from this emperor Kaiser. Later on, he was well, he became, the church was crowned him into a real Kaiser. So he was really becoming an emperor with the support of the church. And I want to talk later about the symbiotic relationship between the church and the leadership. That is very, very important to understand in a time period when Christianity, the church, had a lot of power. And one of the powers was that they are able to crown the king into an emperor, and they decided who were an emperor and who not, under the supervision from God consciousness, of course. So they pretend to have the answers from God, and you cannot arguing against God. So that was the reason that people always lurking to the church, because they had the ability to place people in powerful positions. Um, Karel de Grote had difficulties in building up his emperor in a new state. He managed it, but it caused some difficulties, and I want to talk with you about that difficulties. One of the difficulties is that if you build your empire too big, then there are too big to fall arguments. You cannot control it anymore. You cannot correct things, procedures. So sometimes how bigger an empire, and then the empire will fall because it is too big to manage. See the problems with banking nowadays, or big governmental organizations, or big school organizations. sometimes small, lean and mean, less is more, is more is better. I read also somewhere an article and they say, yeah, maximum 20, 30 people in a company, very good employees, high quality, are sometimes the best to work, very efficient. 20 to 30 people, and you can work very efficient together, and you can even beat bigger competitions there. So one of the things Karel de Grote had to do is protecting the roads and protecting the food fields. So the roads were transporting food, and the roads were also leading to wonderful fruit fields, wine fields, grain fields. A lot of vegetables were produced on the fields in Europe. So, and in the time you had looting guys. So there were a lot of groups of nomads in Europe, and they steal the food and they rob the traders and they rob the people who were in power of those fields. So Karel de Grote had to protect these roads and protect the fields, because otherwise he was losing support from his people and from the very wealthy trade guys. And if you want to stay in power as an emperor, you have to get the support from all the people, of course, but some people are more important than other people. But if you're a very rich trade guy, you want to have the support of those guys, because they're also delivering food to you. And the other very important reason, and I read this a lot of in this book, is tax. You have to have the support of trade guys also to get income. If you have no tax, you cannot build roads and you cannot pay soldiers, police, soldiers to protect the roads and protect the fields. So, as a leader, a Roman emperor, you need tax. And one of the things is that you have to deliver protection to the trade guys, trade over land, trade over sea. I talk with you about later about trade over sea, but you have to protect the trade guys against lottery and that people stealing the food on the fields. And food is very important because poverty will cause revolution, a rebel mind of people are on fire when they get hungry. So you don't want to have hungry people in your empire. You want to have people who have a lot of food to eat. So food was a very important issue. Food business in the kingdom of Karel de Grote was very important. Food. Another thing is Karel de Grote cannot tax the church. The church was rich, so the only solution was taxing the trade guys, because from people with no money you cannot get money. So you have to tax people with money. But the church was very rich, but there was no possibility to tax the church. So what was going on is that the church cannot be taxed, because if you tax the church, you become God's enemy. Very weak argument. but it was in the time very straight. If you touch the church with tax, then you are God's enemy, and we don't crown you anymore, we don't support you anymore. We hit the people up against you because they come every Sunday to the church. So, as church, we have a lot of influence on the support of an emperor and the emperor kingdom, right? So you have to also deal with the church members and the church as a big power organization. So we have the church, we have the trade guys, the food business, and we have to a little bit care about that everything is not coming too big and too big to fall. So there were also sub divisions in the organization in this kingdom to protect the big to fall arguments. Another thing what Karel de Grote was dealing in his life was the attacks from the Vikings. So the Vikings in the Scandinavian threat, the Vikings were producing a lot of children and they searching for a new land, for food, for money, and they had wonderful, beautiful ship technology. So they can go easily on the sea, and they were already making trouble in England, in the United Kingdom nowadays, and they were stealing things, and they were searching for new land because there was an explosion of people there. So he had to deal also with this Scandinavian threat. So also there, soldiers are needing, and also when you need soldiers, you need money, and when you need money, mostly the only solution here is tax, tax, and tax. The Vikings were also problematic because of the safe trade sea roads. I talked with you earlier about that. I want to discuss it now. So you have safe roads and safe sea trade routes. And the Vikings were making trouble there. And if the food or other species or clothing or gold or whatever you can transport with ships, if that is in danger, the prices of the goods will be higher, the goods will be lost, and the goods, the maybe other ship routes will there. And when there is less products, when the need of expensive products will drop, then also you cannot tax these products overseas. So what you want to have as an emperor of the Carolingis emperor is that you have safe ship routes, because then you can tax the trade guys and you can deliver army guys to be a protective power there. So you see that it is quite difficult to manage an emperor, right? Another thing is that the church was also important in between the trade guys and the government, because the trade guys also were going to the church, but they were not so good in making documents, writing documents. In the juridical, legal way of thinking and put everything on paper. So churches also were business houses in the form of legal activities, because in the church where people are able to read, and when you can read and write, you are powerful. So the trade guys were hiring the church members, the church guys, because of the juridical legal contracts with the state. So here you see really the triangle, and you see this a lot in also the Roman Empire, all the empires, and there were always a triangle between the church, the state, and the trade, and then a bulk with normal folks. But mostly those three powers were in a symbiotic relationship. And so the trade guys needed the church because of their writing and their juridical skill sets to have a link with the government. The government needs, the state needs the trade guys for the tax. The trade guys needs the government for military protection. The state needs the church because without the church, the emperor cannot be crowned, cannot be supported. The normal folks need the church because of their spiritual protection and of their social cohesion. So everyone is dependent on each other, and I think that is good because then you have cohesion, and then you have also a kind of stability. And sometimes the power is more by the straight guys, sometimes the power is more by the church, sometimes the power is more by the state. But you see that this triangle of trade guys, church, and state was very important for the stability in this empire. So if you're dependent on each other, it can also be favorable for a kind of situation. So that's the last thing I want to give to you, is that this triangle, to hold this triangle, that the relationships are good, that dependency can also deliver a kind of stability for an empire. Thank you for watching this video about Karel de Grote, and I wish you a wonderful day. Bye bye.